Welcome to Mum's Half Hour, the show that gives you the chance to discuss, explore and share the issues that matter to you. Hello and welcome to Mum's Half Hour. I'm Liz Spate. Now then, if you haven't logged on before, the second Friday of every month for the next 5 months is just for you. Mum's Half Hour, a chance for you to enjoy the conversation and thoughts of other mums and let off a little steam on the issues which matter. This series is fully interactive, so you can get your questions and comments to us right now and we'll receive them live in the studio, or you can post them in advance of every show and the Mum's Half Hour team will ensure we tackle as many as we possibly can. We'll also be giving you the opportunity to win a year's supply of Start-rite shoes for your children in each and every episode. Today we will be discussing competitive parenting and the pressures on the modern mum, summer holidays at home or abroad, just what to do with the little ones and how to avoid the holiday season turning into a nightmare. First shoes, just when are your kids ready for their first proper shoes and what you should look out for when buying them. Well, joining me today to discuss all of the above and much, much more is our Mum's Half Hour panel. We have mum of 1, Kim, mum of 2, Yolanda, and mum of 3, Farah. So that all balances out. Welcome all of you to the show.
Thank you.
All the ladies have their own unique experiences and opinions to share. So ladies, thanks for coming and congratulations on making the panel. Now, don't forget that this is a live show, so if you have any questions or comments for our panel, please use the box on your screen, click send, and we'll do our best to tackle them over the course of the next 30 minutes or so. And when submitting a question, let us know whose shoes you'd most like to walk in for a day and why. Leave us with your contact details and one lucky viewer will be in with a chance of winning a year's supply of Start-rite shoes. And if you're tweeting whilst watching the show, get involved by using the hashtag #MumsHalfHour. Right, well, let's get cracking then, talking to our ladies here. You've all got quite a few kids between you, so you've got a few stories to tell. Let's talk a little bit first about competitive parenting. Coming to you first, Kim, you've got 1 child. Tell us a little bit about that child and how you've coped with competitive parenting.
Well, Grace is, like you say, she's my only child. She's 3 years old. My husband and I are always quite fortunate with Grace in that she's always been slightly ahead of the game, that she was early to crawl, she was early to walk and early talking, and her vocabulary now is quite amazing, we've been told.
She's a bit competitive, but don't tell anybody.
So in that way, our lives were made quite a bit easier.
Right.
But the thing is, I have got friends who have literally left visits with a health visitor in tears because their child has not quite met something that they've set out for them on that particular day. There's enormous pressure, especially I think for first-time parents, to ensure that your child is hitting this target at 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, etc., etc. And if, you know, on that day when your child gets tested, they don't quite do that for whatever reason, you end up feeling like an awful parent. And Craig and I, my husband, have had, you know, these experiences ourselves that, oh, so-and-so can draw that, why can't Grace draw that? And that person can do that, why can't our child do that? And we've had to really take a step back and sort of think, well, actually, our child is pretty amazing in her own right, and to try and not sort of focus so much on all these targets and also what other people are doing as well, because it doesn't matter as much. It's all about Grace and what she's doing.
Exactly, as long as they're happy. Yolanda, it is easy to get dragged into it, though. You've got 2 children,
I've got
haven't
2
you?
children, and it is. I find even for like swimming lessons, it would be, or my child's moving up a class, and then you're sort of kind of thinking, oh, okay, well, why isn't mine? They've been doing it just as long. And I think it does. It's a really crazy world, isn't it? But you have to sort of just ignore it and get on with being a mum or a dad to those children that you have, because they're special, as you say. They're all special in their own right.
And your children are a bit older, aren't they?
They are,
so you've learnt your lessons.
I've learnt it. And a long, long road, but yes, I have learnt it.
Now, Farah, you've got 3. My goodness me, you must be busy. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, my youngest is 12, then I have a 17-year-old, then I have a 20-year-old. So although the 20-year-old isn't a teenager, he's still got a few teenage traits. Yes. But I remember when they were born, and when you start out, you always want the best for them, you want to try the best, you want them to be the best. But as they get older, especially when they become teenagers and you start going through all the issues and they become really complex, you realise that you know, you can't compete with everybody, and every child has their own strengths and their own weaknesses, and you really have to take a step back, think about what you want from your family, what you value, and concentrate on that.
And be strong about that. Because teenagers particularly, it's all about fashion and, you know, it's how have you dealt with that?
It's so much more, and all I can say is you'll only learn about it when you actually go through it, because it's just so complex. You'll go through things that you would never have anticipated, and it's very difficult to share with somebody else, because when you've got an issue, the other parent may say, well, I don't have that problem, and then you think, well, what's the matter with me? Or it might be quite extreme, and you'd feel very embarrassed and very ashamed about it, especially if you're a conscientious parent and you're doing a lot in the community or something. It's much harder to say, hold on a moment, I've got an issue here and I don't know what to do about it.
So who do you talk to? Kim, have you got sort of mummy friends that you talk to about things?
Yes, some of my best friends now, because I was quite young when I had my daughter. I was 23, and it was a massive shock to me at the time.
Which these days is young, isn't it?
Yes,
it didn't used to be.
No, exactly. And so all of my friends were still, you know, just left uni, first-time jobs, more about going out and travelling and that sort of thing, whereas I was suddenly, oh, I'm actually a mum now, and I was perfectly happy with that. But then I found a wonderful group of friends through mum and baby groups locally, and we all still meet up now. And then, like I say, they are some of my closest friends, and it's great to have them there, because they were going through the same things as I was at exactly the same times. So we could all talk to each other, and like when we'd had disastrous visits to health visitors or whatever, we could sit down and say, well, actually, don't worry about it, because, you know, your child will do that eventually.
Yeah.
They're going to walk. If there's some physical problem, they will walk eventually, whether they do it at 9 months or at 20 months.
Yeah.
You know, they'll get there. So we could sort of offer each other support and that sort of thing. And luckily, I've got a very supportive husband, and we could always discuss things. And we actually live with my mother as well, and so she is obviously, you know, a wealth of advice,
Yes.
whether I want it or not. She's a wealth of advice.
Don't knock it.
No, exactly.
If you haven't got it.
Well, that's the thing. I do remember saying as a child, oh, I hate you whenever I have my own child. I'm not going to be anything like you. And actually, I'm exactly the same as she is.
You hear the same things coming out of your mouth, don't you?
Exactly.
We all do.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but Yolanda, I found school, my little girl started school this year, and I found school quite a big problem, sort of competitive-wise, because I really try not to get caught up in it. But I know I have said before, you know, well, Louisa's finding the spelling really difficult. How's your little girl getting on? And she said, well, she hasn't had the spelling yet. And I'm like, no!
And
so I've sort of,
well.
you know, ended up being competitive and not meaning to. And I try and put her down to try and make other parents feel better. And that doesn't work either. So,
no,
I mean,
you don't.
Do you just not talk about them? How do you deal with it?
Sometimes you don't talk about it, and other times you do tend to sort of think, how on earth am I going to cope? And how on earth are people going to really make sense of it and work out from them how they're going to sort of, you can compete with them, really, because you don't want to compete, you want to be friends and you want to stay as friends. But if your child is achieving slightly more, then you're going to feel quite proud of that, and rightly so. You should have a place where you can actually just be proud of your children.
Maybe to grandparents and what have you is a better place for
not always to sort of friends, unless they're close friends, in which case everyone understands each other, don't they?
Exactly. But there are toxic mums out there. Have you noticed that? Or have you had to encounter any toxic mothers with all the designer stuff?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of parents who might boast a lot, which is fine. But at the end of the day, if your child is achieving well, it's your happiness, really. Yeah. So I think grandparents is fine, but I think it's really important to praise the children as well, because that way you encourage desirable behaviour, and they need that praise. It's part of growing up and being nurtured and making them feel good about themselves. But if there are parents who boast a lot, just keep them at a distance, because you can end up feeling inadequate if they have something that their child does and yours doesn't, which is highly likely you're going to come across that. Probably just best to keep a distance.
Yeah, keep a distance from the toxic parents. There are a few of them about. We've all met them in the playground, haven't we? I've had some of your questions in, actually, and keep them coming in. And remember the competition as well. If you'd like to win a year's supply of Start-rite shoes, you can send a message in or tweet us and leave your details, and one of you will win a year's supply of Start-rite shoes, which is quite amazing. We've had a question in from Donna. She says, why are parents so competitive on sports day? Is this a good example to children? The mum's race and the dad's sack race? it's in us, isn't it?
It's just a chance to let everything out, isn't it? Because we don't usually do that. Yeah. And I would be in the last 2 years dreading my daughter's sports day because I can't run at the moment because I've got asthma. I haven't been able to run properly.
That's a good excuse in my book.
But I don't want to be seen as a slow runner.
I would be doing the cake stall or something instead with my.
That's what I used to do. Always do the refreshments and things like that. No, refreshments and things like that for me. Yeah, help that way, and it looks better.
We're actually not allowed to go to our children, my little girl's sports day, which I think is quite healthy in a way because there's quite a lot of pressure on the kids, isn't there? And at a young age, they are competitive. Even at a young age, you can't help it. We are human at the end of the day, aren't we? So we are all competitive, and competitive kids, competitive mums. I don't know. Right, well, let's move on now and talk a little bit about summer holidays. The school holidays are looming. 6 weeks. How on earth are we going to survive that? It's not a holiday for the parents often, isn't it? Although the kids, I'm sure, would think that it is. And those without kids would think that it is, but it is not. So how do we survive the summer holidays then? Kim, you've not quite got this to this stage yet because you've not got the school holidays, but have you been away with your little girl? Are you going away this year?
We went away earlier in the year to Disneyland Paris with a couple of friends, and it was lovely for the kids. It was hell for the parents because we were so stressed the entire time.
Was it a bit tiring by any chance?
It was just a little bit. But actually, at the end of the day, when we looked back at all the photos and we talked about it again, we thought, what they'd done, and we were telling other people about it. They did have an amazing time, and that's what it's all about, really. We could deal with the stress for a couple of days. I mean, like I say, we haven't really experienced the summer holidays yet because she hasn't started school as yet. But because she isn't in school, almost every day that she's at home, we need to do something, or we feel the need to have to do something with her. So we are sort of trying to constantly come up with new and innovative ideas that don't cost the earth as well, and that's quite important. But just trying to keep her active and occupied is sometimes a challenge.
Yeah. Yolanda, how do you keep kids of different ages busy on holiday? How do you tackle the summer holidays? Are you working?
I don't work at the moment.
That makes it slightly easier.
Yeah, when I did, it was very tricky because then I would have to fit in summer clubs and then the days where I wasn't working and having the children and finding things to entertain them, but also to get on with everything that I needed to do as well. How I tackled the holidays was, at the beginning, I would start with a list and draw it up with the children and say, what would you like to do over the holidays? Is there something that you would like to do, such as kite flying, going to the beach, baking a cake, anything that was random, things that were free, things that were a little bit expensive, and those things that were probably family days out, which were going to cost a lot more. And then I would tick them off when we were doing them, so that at the end of the holidays, we come up with a list, and we've got this fantastic list of things that we've done, and they can go back to school and say, well, actually, I did do this, this and this, rather than nothing at all. So you
plan ahead then?
Plan ahead to a degree. Yes. I mean, not rigidly, because life isn't like that.
No, the weather's not like it either, is it?
No, so you have to have dry things and wet things and times to fit in with your group of friends and things like that as well.
Farah, are you going away this summer at all? Or?
We haven't planned anything yet, but I definitely agree with the holidays that you've got to pre-plan. And in our area, we had a family information service, and they produced a booklet with all the activities on. And
so free of charge things, which is good.
Yeah, and I remember one summer holidays for my son, who was 11 at the time. I spent so much time planning and had all these activities for him. And when it came to it, he didn't want to do them. No. And it goes back to what Yolanda says. You need to ask them, what do they want to do?
They're tired as well at the end of term, aren't they? And, you know, they do need time to just kind of chill out and be at home, don't they?
Do you agree with that? Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing activities at home either. And that's the thing, is you kind of feel like, oh, we have to go out to do something to make sure it's stimulating. But actually, with Grace is just at that age now where we can sort of do things at home that will take a long period of time, like baking, because I love to bake, and so sort of getting her into it.
It's so sweet when they're that age, isn't it?
And you can make it into a whole morning event of, let's look through the books, what are we going to bake? Let's write the shopping list, let's go to the shop and buy the ingredients, let's come back and wait all out, and then we'll decorate it afterwards. And that takes a good couple of hours, and actually have been stimulated for that entire time. And even things like taking your kids shopping with you does help, because Grace now loves wandering around the supermarket, and she picks this up, puts it in the basket, picks it up.
Isn't she lucky? My little girl's never like that. She was always legging it out to the shop, and I was like, come back.
It's only recently, and it's with a lot of bribery. If you're a good girl, you have a cake at the end.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got it. That's great. But you've got to teach them to clear up as well, haven't you?
Oh gosh, yes.
It can be a bit messy, can't it? My biggest problem, I think, is I plan all these things, and then it takes 5 minutes, and then it takes you half an hour to clear up. You know, painting, finger painting.
And they've gone on to do something else afterwards, and you're left with this clearing up, and they've gone and wrecked something else in the meantime.
Exactly, I know. But I think what I'm going to try and do this summer holidays is trying to sort of involve other people's children a little bit more. So have one child over at our house and then send Louisa over to someone else's house, because when you've got another child there, they will play together, won't they? I mean, Yolanda, have you found that with yours?
I do definitely find that they do play better with other people's children. My two don't play particularly well together, but they
never do.
No, but they do get on better with other people, and then you get a bit of quiet time where you can sort of leave them to it. And also that there's no excuse in sitting them down with some popcorn and sat in front of a video or a DVD. You know, it isn't a problem to do that, as long as you're not doing it all the time. But it certainly isn't a problem.
And what about homework? Because I was always doing it on the last day of the holidays. Farah, what's your advice on trying to get homework done?
Well, my younger one is quite conscientious. The older one was very lazy. And however much you say, do it. If they're going to do it, they'll do it. I mean, if you can get them to do it before, it's probably better. Maybe for younger children you can use a reward system, not a bribe, a reward. Well, if you do your homework, then maybe we can go out here. It might be something that you'd planned for them anyway. Yeah. So for younger children, I guess you can use rewards. For older children, I guess you just have to keep talking about their career and what they're going to do when they grow up.
Yeah, keep banging on about it.
Yeah.
Now, talking a little bit more about holidays then, there's been a sort of big emphasis on holidaying in the UK, hasn't there? So let's go camping, yes, and then it rains for a week. Holiday in this UK versus holiday abroad. You've been abroad. How did you find the travelling?
It was a nightmare, to be honest, because I think because they were so young as well, keeping them occupied for a 2-hour train journey was a bit difficult. We would definitely, all the holidays we've got planned that are coming up and we want to do in the next couple of years are pretty much all within this country, either going somewhere to the New Forest or going over to Wales, up to Scotland, even just sort of going half an hour down the road, because there's some lovely areas nearby us. So we live in Hertfordshire, so I don't think the children really mind where you are, particularly. It's what you do with them while you're there. And I think actually they probably would prefer not to have to travel so far. And if you've just got to load up the car, it's much easier than having to get onto a train or on a plane and unload the other end.
On that note about car journeys, actually, we've had a question in from Donna at mummybird.com. She says, we're going on holiday next month and we will be travelling for 8 hours in the car. Oh. Any tips to prevent the children from getting bored? 8 hours, that's quite a long stretch, isn't it? Yolanda?
DVD player, absolutely, definitely, 100%.
So you can get those online, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, we have a twin-screened one, so that there's 2 screens, and they also have headphones on as well, so that we can listen to the radio in the front or music, and we don't have to listen to SpongeBob or whatever, whichever one that you're going to be given.
And then they can watch different DVD, can they each, or is it?
These ones
are
the same. Right. Are the same ones.
So
we have done it in the past where
that?
they had separate ones because they used to fight over it.
Yes.
But the rule is before we leave the house, the first person chooses, and then they take some with us and.
Every household sets their own different rules, don't they? Whatever works. Another question from Michelle on a similar topic, actually. What travel games would you recommend to keep my 3-year-old entertained on our holiday journey? Farah, any top tips for 3-year-olds?
It's a difficult one. I think it's very individual. My younger daughter has a DS and then she likes crosswords and word searches. My older one just has, she has her iPhone. But, I mean, the biggest challenge for us is if we were going on a long car journey was how do you stop them from fighting and killing each other?
In the back seat.
Yeah.
Keep splitting them up. I just used to read all the time in the car.
There's lots of games that you can play, aren't there?
Yeah.
Like even ones with picking out colours of cars. Yellow car is quite a good one.
Yes.
Where they can play things like that. Preferably not with the hitting each other, but you could sort of just say sort of yellow car, and then that sort of gets them looking at, or a police car and things like that. There are some quite good books out there.
We play I Spy with our 3-year-old, and it's not the same as an I Spy site beginning with S, because she's not quite there yet. But if we say, oh, I can see a tree, then she's looking around. Oh, there it is. And so that keeps her occupied for a good 20-odd minutes. And it might drive you insane for a little bit, but it keeps them, keeps
I think it's having a few weapons in your armour, isn't it?
I've often carried little bits. Even now, I'll carry paper games around with me, ready for hangman, squares and things like that, so that if we're sitting down somewhere waiting to be served or something like that, we can keep them entertained.
Yeah. But never mind the car journey, what about the packing? I mean, you just take so much stuff when you've got kids, because you've got to be prepared for every eventuality, especially if you're in this country, holidaying in this country. Yolanda, tell us a little bit about your packing strategy.
Oh, well, I have a list and I will tick off everything that I've got, but the thing is, you've got to take so much. If you're camping, for example, you've got your wellies, your sandals, going out shoes if you fancy doing a nicer evening, swimming shoes. You know, you could just take so many things, and then on top of that, you've got your first aid kit, you've got your sun cream, jackets, cardigans, anything to keep you warm. It is a real nightmare.
You've got to be prepared for anything, haven't you? But as a mum, that's what we're here for, isn't it? We are prepared with the plasters, with the wet wipes, with the wellies, with the flip-flops, with the sunscreen, with the umbrellas. You've got to take the lot, haven't you? But just a reminder of our competition. When submitting a question to us, be sure to leave your contact details, and you could be in with a chance of winning a year's supply of Start-rite shoes. Before we talk in detail about our child's first shoes, we've got a short video with an expert outlining just when is the right time to buy your child's first proper pair of shoes and what to look out for when buying them. Take a little look at this.
We expect children to start walking anytime between 9 months and all the way to 18 months. It's a very broad spectrum, and lots of children start walking on their 12th month birthday, their first birthday, which obviously is very special. If a child starts walking earlier, that's fine, and if a child starts walking later than that, that's also fine. If you have any concerns, speak to your health professional. Your child is ready for their first proper shoes when they're walking unaided and their feet need protection. It's a good idea to look at the campaign website, healthylittlefeet.com. It's got a very useful ready for shoes reckoner, and then take them to the shoe shop, get your child's foot properly measured and get some proper shoes on them. When you go to buy your child's first shoes, it can be a very exciting time, and do take advice from the professional shoe fitters. Go to a shoe shop, get your child's foot properly measured. It's very important. They do vary in the width fitting, and that pair of shoes is important. Do look at the healthylittlefeet.com checklists if you've got concerns as to what to expect and what you're looking for in a well-made children's shoe like Start-rite. I've got one here. Is a shoe that's fastened on. It must always be fastened on. No slip-on shoes for the babies. Their feet are too immature. You're looking for a shoe that's not overly flexible so that it doesn't bend up and curl up like a ball, and you're looking for a shoe that's got a nice stable heel cup. And then don't forget to get your feet measured regularly, because children's feet grow very fast.
Well, some sound advice there from podiatrist and foot care expert Emma Supple. Buying the first shoes for your child is a really exciting time. I was so excited when my little girl got her first shoes, and she was so excited as well. She really knew it was something different, and she was like stepping up and down. It's just so exciting. Kim, that's been quite a recent experience for you. How did you go about buying first shoes for your little girl?
Well, she started walking when she was about 9 months old, so we took her into...
That's really early, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, she was quite an early walker. And she had some shoes before that, the ones that are in between when they're sort of crawling to walking. When we took her in, she wasn't best pleased, obviously, with what was going on. So we did have to.
She's a bit too young to understand.
She was, but you know, we gave her some snacks, and she was okay, looking a bit nervous of what was going on with her feet.
Oh.
But it was quite fun for us. And we took a photo and everything of her sort of tottering around, and it's something that we'll keep obviously in her baby book for a long time. But it was very important for us to make sure that we got her properly fitted shoes, because I've had problems with my feet for quite a long time, by having quite wide feet, and then as a child that developed into bunions, and I've had 2 operations and these sort of things.
Goodness,
and I really didn't want Grace to have to go through that. And she has got quite large feet for a child of her age for some reason. So we've always got her properly fitted shoes to make sure that we're not damaging her feet, because I'm quite neurotic about it. Really.
But they are very tiny little feet, aren't they? And all their bones are so sort of squishy at that age. When I was little, this is a story my mum's not going to thank me for telling, but my sister put a rubber in my shoe, and my mum kept putting my foot into my shoe, and now one of my toes is bent. So thank you for that, Mum. She didn't know, but it might not have been that, but I think it probably was. And so it just shows how important it is. Yolanda, when you've got kids, shoes are expensive, but it's worth spending that money, isn't it?
You have to. The leather is usually much softer, and you have got that opportunity to make sure that you're giving them the best start.
Yes.
And if you don't, then you're sort of, if something goes wrong, you've got that guilt factor looming in your head, haven't you? At least if you've done everything right, then that's all you can really do.
Yeah. A friend of mine gets second-hand shoes on eBay, and I've never thought that's a very good idea, but she's not got very much money. But I think, well, there are some things that you must spend the money on. I mean, Farah, would you say that shoes...
your feet mould to the shoe as well, so it's not always the best idea, no.
And what about leather shoes versus plastic shoes? Farah, how have you done with shoes? You've got 3 children. That's a lot of money at school term time.
It is a lot of money. Interestingly enough, when my children were born and as they were growing up, although you get so much advice from professionals about sleeping habits, nappy changing, breastfeeding, whatever, nobody told me anything about shoes. And when you think, by the time I reached 30, I had to have comfortable, good pair of well-fitted shoes. For the children, you would have thought whose bones are, bendy, and you would have thought it would be more important. So that's just interesting that I had no idea. So
know how to go about it. The shoe shops are pretty good, though, aren't they? I mean, they do spend a lot of time fitting the shoes with them, and it is a skill at the end of the day, isn't it? But looking after shoes as well. My little girl has been through 2 pairs of shoes in 1 school year. She just wears through the leather. I don't know what she does to them. I just don't know. So teaching your children to look after them. Do your kids clean their own shoes? Come on, Farah, tell me that they do.
They go through their shoes really quickly, and with boys, my son's feet were growing so quickly. It was so freaky. You know, he just started secondary school and he's like size 7. They do get through a lot of shoes. They'll wear them out. They'll grow out of them, and it's just one of those things.
Yeah, but do you try and teach them to take care of them though? Please tell me they don't come back with 1 shoe from school.
Occasionally, yeah, that does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if they've changed into trainers or something and then they come home with 1 shoe, you do end up trolling up the school and trying to find the other shoe because you know that you need that shoe back.
So name your shoes, basically.
Yes,
when
name
you're
your
at school.
shoes, yeah, definitely. That's a
we
good
did
tip.
at nursery, yes.
Yeah.
I was very neurotic about she needs to come home with her shoes, mainly because I was very lucky that my mother-in-law had offered, she wanted to buy Grace proper fitted shoes for the first 2 years of her life, so actually that was a massive help for us.
Oh, that's nice.
But it was
money, actually.
It is, yeah. And so,
but
it was even more so. She needs to come home with her shoes because they were a present and not someone else's.
So shoes, they get through quite a lot of them. When they're little, their feet do grow very quickly. So to Grace's, how many pairs of shoes has she had so far?
Oh gosh, I've lost count. She needs a new pair probably every 5 months or so, at least 1 new pair, and then that means a new pair of proper shoes, a new pair of wellies, a new pair of sort of playing shoes in a way, and they've just got a massive pile of them in the loft. I don't even know what they're keeping them, but
keep those first shoes though, because on my 21st birthday, my mum gave me my first shoes in a little shoe box. So got to keep them. Yes. Oh, they're so sweet, and they were little patent ones as well. My little girl's first shoes, so they're very sweet. Right, we've had a question in from Christine Veronica Taylor. She says, "Is it best for my 1-year-old to leave his shoes off when he's in the house? I'm not sure whether it's good or bad wearing his shoes all day." That's quite an interesting one, isn't it? What would you say, Farah? Shoes on in the house or shoes off?
The only thing I worry about is not wearing anything on your feet in the house, is especially when it's winter and the floor's cold, you maybe catch cold very easily.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't want to wear shoes, I'd definitely say a comfortable, well-fitted pair of slippers just to keep them warm.
Yeah, but you don't need the shoes. I wouldn't have thought to mould the feet really. What would you say, Yolanda?
No, I would say shoes off in the house anyway. Because if you've got carpets, then
saves on hoovering.
It's just mud everywhere, and mine managed to find every puddle and everything going. So no, definitely no shoes in my house.
Yeah, and we, at the end of the day, we were born to walk barefoot, weren't we? So walking barefoot in the house is fine.
I think I always had slippers for them.
Yeah, yes, true. But you sort of need the shoe to mould your foot.
No.
But you don't want a badly fitting shoe because then it could damage your foot. I think that's the kind of difference, isn't it? But when to buy shoes as well, I know I've been trying to do shoe shopping for summer shoes for my little girl, and they've just got none of the sizes left, and it's the same at the start of term. And you found that, Yolanda, at the start of term? You can't get sizes.
Yeah, you have got such a limited amount of styles that you can choose if you leave it too late. So I would say start early, but then you can't go too early in case they grow that much bigger, because you want them to last at least till Christmas.
That's right.
I mean, I've always sort of aimed for getting some in the summer, Christmas. Yeah. Strangely, those ones tend to last round till are falling apart, but they do tend to stay on their feet right round again till September.
Okay, but it's important to get them fitted properly and to keep having your children's feet meshed.
Oh yeah, even
as well.
in between buying the shoes, you can go into most high street decent shoe shops,
yeah.
and they will actually measure your feet and actually make sure that the shoe still fits them.
Yeah, exactly.
And they will tell you if they do fit. They will say no, you've got another month in those.
Yeah, they are pretty good, aren't they? And if you want more information about how to get your shoes properly fitted for your children, you can go to YouTube, and it's www.youtube.com/Start-rite shoes, and there's quite a good video on there. Now, ladies, we're fast running out of time today. We talked and talked. We talked plenty about our children, but we'd like to talk a little bit about us now. We like that subject too, don't we? How do you find some me time then? Because it is so busy being a mum. I know everyone goes on about it, but it really is. You just don't stop, do you? Kim, how do you find time to relax? You've got your mum or mother-in-law living with you. So that's... My mum,
yeah, she is a great sort of living babysitter in a way.
Yeah, you lucky thing.
But we do tend to, from an early age, we've always given grace to other family members, so to my mother-in-law and that sort of thing, so that she would feel comfortable there, which means that we can, I mean, last weekend she was there from Friday till Sunday, so my husband and I had the whole weekend. We didn't do anything. We literally just we didn't just sat and watch TV most of the time, but it was just nice not having to constantly get up and do this and do that and whatever, and that's, I think, very, very important, having somebody who can, it sounds horrible to think you need time from your child.
Not at all. It's guilt, you see, isn't it? We feel so guilty.
Exactly, but when she came back, we were both refreshed, and it was nice to see her again, and, you know, we'd had a lovely break.
Yes. Now, Kim says she's planning on having 4 children. I don't know whether this is news to the family. Planning on having 4. So I'm not surprised, really, if she gets the weekend off. I think I'll be having 4 if I had a weekend off. Yolanda, were you lucky enough to have family support like that?
Not like that. We moved away from our family, so we don't get to see them as much as we'd like to, but we do. Nowadays, we tend to sort of be able to leave the children and go out for an hour or two and come back to a house, which is quite helpful. Yeah. When they were younger, we didn't really have any time, but then equally we were working and things like that. So if my husband was at work, I was looking after the children. If he was at home, I was at work. So it didn't really have any me time at that stage in our lives.
Not even a spa day now and again?
Not then, no. Now maybe now.
We get through it somehow, don't we? But it is important to have some me time, and some together as a couple, isn't it?
We've found that now is like date nights.
Yes, that's lovely.
You know, having that and trying to just go to the cinema or something, just so that.
Oh, hello, husband, I remember you.
Yeah, that's right. It's like that, because you sit separately in the house when you're doing things on computers, and that's sort of...
It's easy to drift apart,
if the children aren't around, you're separate.
Yeah. Farah, how do you find time for you? I suppose yours are a bit older now, so it makes it a tiny bit easier.
They're a bit older, but they do need attention. They do need one-to-one with each of them. And then, although they're older, as I said, with the 2 younger girls, I don't want the older one to kill the younger one, so we've got to be careful when we leave them. But life has been much better since I joined a sports centre, because for me that's like a bit of a sanctuary, because I do need time away. And then since the last 16 years, I've been going swimming once a week, which is brilliant, which is like my... And with the husband, I said to him, you know, if we don't arrange to go out for a meal every once in a while, it's just like 2 people living in the same house, and that's it, because that's how it can be. And, you know, men... Maybe some of them aren't just very romantic, but they do learn this is good, this is our space, and we can get a chance to chat. But it's so important, because if we don't look after ourselves as mums, then we can't look after our kids.
Yeah. Wise words there from a mother of 3. Well, time flies when you're having fun, and our half hour is up, I'm afraid, ladies. So my thanks to Kim, Farah and Yolanda for joining us. It's been really great to see you. And be sure to catch us next time on Mum's Half Hour on Friday the 12th of August, when we'll be discussing, amongst other things, getting prepared for your kids going back to school. We can get through the school holidays, can't we? Come on, we can do it. Well, bye-bye for now, and thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.